Language is limited. We may not ever really stop and think about that so much because language just seems so useful. We can describe and think about things but language is actually very, very limited. It can only describe things to a certain point because it uses words. And words are great, but they're limited. Like the color red. What is that really? We can say red. You're thinking about red. Look, I got a red flag right there, right? Certainly we know what red is. But then, you start getting into it deeper and deeper, and well, which exact shade are you talking about? And what is red anyway? The scientists get in there and they're like, oh, it's just the way that light is reflected from different things. And if we want to get into real, woo-woo thinking, it's like, when I see red, do I see the exact same thing that you see when you see red? It kind of only makes sense that maybe we don't. Because, my synapses in my brain are formed in a certain way from certain things and genetic and, history and learning. And does it really make sense that my brain works exactly the same as yours works when I see red? So it's like there we're talking about one simple thing, and boom, you start getting into it. And it's like really, really huge. And the reason I say language is limited is because no matter how hard we try, we can't get to the end of the subject. Because the language itself doesn't really quite grab it. But we can use a different part of ourselves to really look at it. Just really look at red. Oh, yeah. You can kind of just look and just know things about it without having to describe it. Now think about languages. Every language has a different word for the word red. That's going to describe kind of a different quality. Like there might be some languages where the word red expresses, its brightness, how it's similar to fire, Some languages might just have a really, really boring word for red, like red. So language can only do so much to help us understand the world and reality. And this is what non-dual teachings are so much about, is the fact that if you can step back from your thoughts, which means step back from your language and see this broader perspective, you're going to be closer to the truth. The actual truth about red can be more understood by looking at it than talking about it, right? So this is what non-duality is trying to teach us, that you are not your thoughts. Your thoughts are something separate that just kind of go in front of your consciousness. Your thoughts are language. You are not your ability to describe things. Kind of in a nutshell, that's what it's saying. It's saying there is something more aware in you than the things that you see and your ability to describe them. And if you can find that something, you have discovered who you are. You're this awakeness. You are the awakeness that can see the color red no matter what word there is for it. So language is very limited. And it's also limited by the history of the language itself. This is kind of how non-duality and native traditions intersect, because native traditions use a very, very different type of language than what I guess I have to call civilized traditions and civilized languages. Instead of making things objects, most native languages talk about the relation, you think, between things and how things move. So the world isn't fixed and separate. In non-duality and enlightenment traditions, when you hit the point where you realize that you are not your thoughts, you are not your language, then your natural state is seeing everything in this interconnected way. So maybe we can think language is limited, but you are not. Your awareness can see things and know things way beyond language. And the most important point is to understand that native traditions for centuries and centuries and centuries took people from birth and helped everyone see we're interconnected. Everything is interconnected. In civilized societies and in civilized language, we're taught from the very beginning, things exist separately. There's you, there's me, there's your ball, that's your ball, this is my ball. Things are all separate, and it kind of messes up our brain. I mean, maybe I'm talking about language all week here, and so maybe what I'm really kind of trying to say is that our particular language that we use to inform our world messes up our brain. And so this is why we need traditions like non-duality. How do you step beyond it? Because you can't fix the problem using the problem. You got to step completely beyond it, and then you're there. So this is the intersection here between native wisdom and non-duality. Native wisdom doesn't really have the tools to take someone who's all messed up and bring them back to reality. It doesn't have really effective tools for that. Civilized civilizations, kind of, let's be honest, don't really have very many tools that do a good job with it either. But non-duality is one of those tools that it's like, how do you disassociate from your addiction to your mind, to your separation language, to the language that makes you think everything is separate? How do you disassociate from yourself from that so that you can see that everything is actually connected, so that you can be you? So when we put these two things together, it's like, oh, non-duality is the tool we can use to be able to more easily and gently and effectively step into this place where native wisdom can live. And native wisdom is the story of what it looks like, because our brains need stories. So this is the story of where we're going to, how we want to live, and how we want to be. So between the two, they're a very good match.